Kate Smurthwaite, so you're known as a political activist and a comedian, and you're also very passionate about the No More Page 3 campaign.
Absolutely,
So what drew you towards it?
Well, it's just like people think that the thing that annoys me the most is people saying it's this little trivial issue and it doesn't matter. Like it's such a widely read newspaper and it's such a standard piece of our culture that goes so unquestioned that it has a huge influence on our culture. And and it's not about prudishness and it's not about being disgusted by women's bodies or anything like that. On the contrary, I'm all for naturist beaches and letting it all hang out at the swimming pool or whatever, and being comfortable with your body and all this kind of stuff. But do you know what I mean? I'm all for seeing the human body, male or female, in its natural, perfectly healthy state. But this isn't about that at all. Do you know what I mean? What we see on page 3 of The Sun isn't natural, isn't healthy. It's a very stylised, tiny, tiny sliver of the population that look anything like that. It's very young women, presented in an incredibly sexual way, and it's slap bang in the middle of what is supposed to be, and we could debate that all day, but what is supposed to be a newspaper. So it's sending out the message that, like, this is what men are about. Here's the Chancellor announcing the budget, and here's a sports star playing football, and here's a business leader, and all this kind of stuff. And then right in the middle of that, there is this... it's just kind of really bizarre and random. And then worse still, she's given some quote to say about the news, some really obvious cheesy quote like, I think Nigel Farage is a great bloke, or something that she, we have no evidence to suggest she thinks. And I've been campaigning on the subject for a really long time.
Do you feel quite uncomfortable about the idea that it's almost sort of represented, well, it puts itself out there as a family newspaper, and potentially it could be on a kitchen table with a father eating his cereal and his young daughter could look across and see page 3 scatter open? Is that quite a daunting?
Yeah, well, just speaking totally personally, I'm somebody who grew up with anorexia, and in my sort of around about the sort of 13, 14 age bracket, I started to grow up, to mature. I started to develop curves, and I knew already that I didn't want that. That I was starting to get attention from men in the street, and it didn't make me feel great. It made me feel awful and embarrassed and paranoid and uncomfortable. And that, it was a part of me almost consciously made that decision that said, I don't want to look like an adult woman because of the way adult women are treated as sex objects. I'm just going to starve myself, and if I don't ever grow boobs, then nobody will be able to treat me like that. And if I just stay looking like a young girl by being stick thin, I'll be protected from that. And I remember thinking that very consciously. So I know, then a few years later I was down to like under 7 stone, and I'm quite tall, and I was very ill. I didn't have periods for about 18 months. I was very, very sick, and I can draw a direct line between that and a culture which said as soon as I developed breasts, they were fair game for anybody who wanted to comment on them or whistle at me or, admire them, criticise them, whatever. Because it's as soon as you give someone the power to be like, oh, they're great, they have the power to go, actually, not really. People sort of think that if you're whistled at in the street, well, that's a compliment. But if somebody shouts you're ugly in the street, we don't think, well, at least they've noticed. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's all about whether or not your value is anything to do with the way others see you, especially men.
Absolutely. Well, I hope, with that personal story that you just shared, thank you for sharing that. We hope that people will be moved to sign the petition, but if they haven't signed it already, if they're on the fence, what would you say to them to encourage them to do so?
Well, I guess I would say examine what your reasons are for not wanting to. I just sort of worried that people will think that you're prudish, and the answer to that is I totally understand, because but that's actually not to do with our campaign. That's to do with the campaign against us, which is this campaign that says, oh, it's free speech, it's free speech, it's free speech. And I, speaking as like a passionate atheist and somebody, I'm so involved with free speech. And I absolutely think if somebody wants to publish a picture of a naked woman with a commentary about the way what it says and what it means, or perhaps they want to publish a picture of a naked woman in a book about human anatomy or anything like this, I absolutely would be the first person to say that's totally cool. This isn't about that. In fact, if page 3 only happened once, it wouldn't be a problem. We'd be like, oh, okay, they've shown something. Oh, okay, let's look at that. No, I see what they've shown. And then the next day, there'd be a naked guy, and the next day there'd be a naked old person, and like this would just go on. But it's not. What it's about is that it's the same image every day, and it might be Kaylee one day and Hayley the next, but it is the same image, isn't it? Day in and day out, like on and on and on. And it's not about what we can and can't show. It's about what message we're constantly sending out. So there's that. And then, I guess, what other objections might people have to signing the petition? I guess the other thing is people say, well, I'm not really political, I'm not really that bothered about these things.
Which doesn't matter at all, because
and
it's become a part of everyday
well,
life almost.
Don't mind us. Come right through. Hey, Paul. And the answer is, great, this is an opportunity to get involved with something really simple, really straightforward. You can sign the petition and it doesn't make you a member of a political party, and it doesn't, sign you up to going on marches or anything. It's just a really simple step that you can take that benefits loads of people around you, and especially all the women in your life.
And if everybody takes that small step, I'm sure we'll end up getting rid of it very soon. So on a lighter note, we're putting together a poem.
Yes.
Now the first lines of it are, on a partially cloudy day in 1970, the men at the Sun were wondering what to put on page 3.
Okay.
And we're asking all of our interviewees, and you are the very first, to add 2 lines each, and we're going to try and cause a ruckus with this. We're going to get the story out there, not only with interviews, not only with social media, but with poems. So, what's the 2 lines that you'll be adding?
Brilliant. Should I do it straight to camera?
Go for
it. Yes. So it's this. We don't know the details, but we can assume that there weren't many women on the team in the room.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing how the poem's going to stretch out, and I think you've done a really good job of kicking it off. So, Kate, I think we're sending it with a fist bump. Do this. All right, join the petition, get it out there, share it, get your friends and your family to sign it, and see you very soon.